Number 6. New packages, more complexity. The Bronco lineup was already confusing enough, but Ford decided to make things even more complicated for 2026. The Blue Oval has added yet another package to an already crowded roster, therefore creating what many dealers are calling decision paralysis among customers. Walk into a Ford showroom today and you'll face Base, Big Bend, Heritage Edition, Outer Banks, Badlands, Stroppy Edition, and Raptor trims, but that's just the beginning of your headache. Each trim can be loaded with different packages like Sasquatch, Black Diamond, Luxe, and now the new editions, therefore turning what should be a straightforward truck purchase into a mathematical nightmare. The Sasquatch package alone comes in different configurations depending on which trim you choose. On the Big Bend, Sasquatch costs $6,175, but on the base trim, the same package jumps to $8,460. Add in color combinations, hardtop versus softtop choices, and 2-door versus 4-door configurations, and you're looking at literally hundreds of possible combinations. Some buyers appreciate having endless customization options, but the reality is that most people just want to know which Bronco fits their needs without needing a spreadsheet. Ford's own sales staff admit they struggle to explain all the combinations, therefore leading to longer sales processes and frustrated customers who walk away. When your product lineup requires a PhD to understand, you've probably gone too far. But all that complexity becomes meaningless when Ford's most important 2026 edition fails to deliver what enthusiasts actually wanted, which brings us to the anniversary edition that's splitting the community. Number 5. 60th Anniversary Edition. Ford rolled out the red carpet for the Bronco's 60th Anniversary Edition, complete with Wimbledon white paint and vintage-inspired styling cues that perfectly capture the original spirit. The exterior treatment is undeniably gorgeous, with vermilion red accents, unique wheels, and special badging that pays proper homage to the 1966 original. Inside, the cabin receives premium materials and embossed 60-year anniversary logos. But pop the hood and you'll find the same turbocharged engines as every other Bronco, therefore crushing the hopes of enthusiasts who expected something special under the skin. You can choose between the 300 horsepower 2.3-liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder or the 330 horsepower 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6, both perfectly adequate but completely ordinary. This was Ford's golden opportunity to make a statement about the Bronco's heritage. Anniversary editions are supposed to push boundaries and create lasting memories. Here's what makes this particularly frustrating. Jeep offers the Wrangler with a massive 392 V8 that produces 470 horsepower and sounds like thunder. Therefore, what should have been a celebration of 6 decades of Bronco heritage feels more like a missed opportunity wrapped in pretty paint. You're paying anniversary edition prices for regular Bronco performance, and that disconnect is leaving many longtime fans feeling betrayed. Speaking of disappointing performance decisions, Ford's approach to the 2026 suspension changes shows they're still missing the mark on what Bronco buyers actually want. Number 4. Ride quality enhancements. Ford engineers decided to fiddle with the Bronco suspension tuning for 2026, claiming improved ride quality on pavement. The changes involve subtle revisions to spring rates and damper tuning, but they've reignited the debate about the Bronco's independent front suspension versus the Wrangler's solid axle setup. Ford insists these tweaks make the Bronco more comfortable for daily driving, but critics argue the improvements are so minor they're barely noticeable in real-world conditions. The fundamental issue isn't the 2026 tweaks themselves, but the entire suspension philosophy that Ford chose. That independent front suspension was supposed to give Ford an advantage over Jeep's solid axle design. In theory, independent suspension should provide better on-road manners and improved steering precision, but the Bronco's tall stance, heavy weight, and chunky off-road tires negate most of those theoretical advantages. The bigger issue is what the Bronco sacrificed to achieve this theoretical improvement. That independent front suspension may ride slightly smoother on highways, but it simply cannot match the rugged durability of a solid axle when you're bouncing off rocks in Moab. Solid axles are nearly indestructible and can be repaired in the field with basic tools. Independent systems have multiple components that can fail and require specialized tools for repairs. But if you think Ford's suspension decisions are questionable, wait until you hear about their powertrain strategy that's driving enthusiasts straight to Jeep dealers. Number 3. Powertrain. This might be the most controversial point of all. Ford decided to change absolutely nothing about the Bronco's engine lineup for 2026. You still get the same 2.3-liter EcoBoost turbo 4-cylinder and 2.7-liter EcoBoost twin-turbo V6, but no naturally aspirated engines and definitely no V8. For a vehicle that positions itself as the spiritual successor to classic American off-roaders, this feels like a fundamental betrayal of the Bronco's DNA. The original Bronco came with simple, reliable engines that embodied the rugged American spirit. These engines engines were bulletproof, repairable with basic tools, ran on regular gasoline, and provided low-end torque perfect for rock crawling. Today's turbocharged engines are technological marvels, but they come with complexity that goes against everything the Bronco originally represented. Turbochargers add heat stress, require premium fuel, and introduce potential failure points that didn't exist in naturally aspirated engines. When you're deep in the wilderness, the last thing you want is a complex engine management system throwing error codes because a boost sensor failed. The turbo engines also lack the immediate throttle response that made classic Broncos so capable at rock-crawling speeds. Walk over to a Jeep dealer and you can order a Wrangler with a screaming 392 V8 producing 470 horsepower, a plug-in hybrid system, or traditional V6 power, therefore giving buyers the choice that Ford refuses to provide. Turbo engines are efficient and powerful, but they lack the character and soundtrack that made the original Bronco legendary. Therefore, Ford is essentially telling enthusiasts that modern efficiency matters more than the emotional connection that built the Bronco's reputation. So Ford won't give you the engines you want, but surely they've fixed the signature feature that's been problematic since day one, right? Think again. Number 2. Hardtop design. One of the Bronco's biggest selling points is its modular hardtop system that lets you remove panels for that open-air experience. Ford promised improvements to the hardtop design for 2026, but early reports suggest the changes are cosmetic at best. The fundamental problems that have plagued the system since launch remain largely unaddressed, therefore continuing to frustrate owners who bought into the convertible dream. The issues start with basic usability. Those hardtop panels each weigh over 50 pounds, making solo removal a back-breaking exercise that requires careful choreography to avoid dropping expensive body panels. Many owners report needing help from family members, which defeats the spontaneous nature of convertible ownership. But the real issue is build quality. The seals don't create the airtight barrier you'd expect, therefore allowing wind noise to invade the cabin at highway speeds and water to find its way inside during storms. Owners consistently report water leaks around the panel seams. The wind noise is so pronounced that many owners avoid highway driving with the hard top on, defeating the purpose of having a weather-tight cabin option. But even if Ford fixed every single mechanical issue we've discussed, there's one problem that makes all the others pale in comparison. Number 1. Price hike continues. The most controversial change for 2026 isn't what Ford added to the Bronco, it's what they added to the price tag. The base model now starts at $37,995, with loaded versions easily cresting $60,000 before you even consider the $90,000 plus Raptor. These increases come at a time when the Bronco offers essentially the same truck as previous years, but Ford expects customers to pay more for the privilege. The pricing problem becomes clear when you start cross-shopping alternatives. For that $38,000 base Bronco price, you can buy a well-equipped F-150 with better towing capacity, more cargo space, and superior fuel economy. A mid-level Bronco with Sasquatch costs around $55,000, money that also buys you a BMW X3 or Mercedes GLC with superior materials and refined driving experiences. The Sasquatch package adds nearly $8,000 to the base price, pushing even a modestly equipped Bronco well into the $50,000 range. Here's the math that doesn't work. You can buy a base Bronco for nearly $40,000, but that money also gets you a Honda Pilot with 3 rows of seating, better fuel economy, and superior reliability. Therefore, Ford is pricing the Bronco out of its natural market and into territory where buyers start cross-shopping completely different vehicles. The price hikes feel especially tone-deaf when you consider that most of the improvements for 2026 are either minimal or controversial. You're paying more money for a truck that many enthusiasts argue has gotten worse, not better, and that equation simply doesn't balance for value-conscious buyers. The 2026 Bronco changes reveal a company caught between appealing to mainstream buyers and satisfying hardcore enthusiasts, but succeeding at neither. While some buyers will overlook these issues for the Bronco's undeniable style and off-road capability, the controversial nature of these changes suggests Ford may have lost sight of what made the Bronco special in the first place. For potential buyers, these 6 changes aren't just updates to consider, they're fundamental shifts that could determine whether the Bronco remains the off-road icon it was meant to be or becomes just another overpriced SUV in a crowded market. But Bronco's key rival faces the same struggle, which is why you must check out our video about the controversial changes for the 2026 Jeep Wrangler. If you think Jeep would just rely on Wrangler's legacy, the thing is that modern market requires constant updates, even in the case of such an iconic model. The only problem is that, just like Ford, Jeep doesn't seem to be able to do them right.